Today on The Communicative Leader, we welcome Nancy Oh. Nancy is a life strategist and an executive coach, and she shares her journey with us and talks to us about the importance of work-life integration. You might not have heard that term before because we usually think about work-life balance, but Nancy challenges this misconception that work-life balance means equal hours for work and for personal life, and instead she talks to us about the idea of work-life integration. I had so much fun learning from Nancy, and I know you will too. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to The Communicative Leader, hosted by me, Dr. Leah Oh. My friends call me Dr. O. I'm a professor of communication and a leadership communication expert. On The Communicative Leader, we're working to make your work life what you want it to be. Nancy, thank you so much for joining us today on The Communicative Leader. I'm really excited about the work that you do, and it's so important, and I can't wait to share that. And before we dive in, could you give us a little background about yourself and kind of talk to us about what led you to where you are today?
Good morning. For me, good morning. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever the
Yep.
listeners are, right? Well, this is an interesting question because usually people expect, I join an organization and then that's my calling or whatever, or something happened and, I shift to my gear or something like that. But for me, I call it a natural progression. All right. Being very, very blessed, all right, to be born in Singapore. Because from the get-go, as in the 60s, we already have got this great leader, our late Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, which is really a leader. Everybody knows that. That's why Singapore is a brand. All right. The latest, Shift Taylor, look at that. You know what I mean? Right.
Yes.
So I grew up sort of like being influenced in the sense of the way we think, which probably younger generation, unfortunately, do not benefit as much because they already, sort of benefit from the fruits, from our forefathers, so to speak. Okay. So anyway, so the thing is that, so I am influenced, or I was influenced to think so-called out of box. If you want your life good, you just have to make it happen. And for some reason, I do not like to sort of like be the conventional thing. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. But then since as a kid, I just want to be different in that sense. All right. So in school, in some way, I already say, I've got a group of so-called classmate friends, and somehow I would lead them in my own way. I will listen to their problems, like, okay, we all have got problems, right? But we have to do this, we have to do that, the sort of stuff. It was kind of natural. And also, by watching, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, how he makes speeches, I was literally like, watching a pop concert. Yeah, this is the way to go. Yeah, the sort of stuff. So therefore, after quite a natural thing, again, always a natural thing, that I said, I do not want to just get a job, do earn a job, make my money, and then have a lifestyle. Well, I want a lifestyle, but that's not what I want to do. So at a very young age, at 24, I've already been on my own. The first business that I enhanced, or rather I chance upon, or I embark on, all right, is that I was an image consultant.
Okay.
Yeah. So at that time, all right, there was really a gap and a lack in business etiquette, social graces and stuff like that. Of course, I was in UK studying, and then I actually joined an image consultancy, or so-called to make some money as a part-time job, that kind of thing. And so when I came back and I said, no, I want to do that. All right, I want to be just in the forefront of stuff, and I did that. Then, of course, then followed by all the other soft skills like communications, which is up your alley. All right, effective communications, all the other soft skills that's necessary, negotiation skills, and the people skills, I'll call it. So from there, I just add to my portfolio. Right. So today, I'm a life strategist, executive coach, whereby I'll see myself as a guide to the C-suites, business owners, to help them or assist them to fill the gap. And the gap is between personal fulfillment and professional fulfillment. Yeah. And being in this part of the world, I guess it's really about all the first world country issue. We can be a bit too materialistic. We just look at, the dream that we want and we go for the dream, which is good. We need that. We want that. But unfortunately, while focusing on that, something give way. Relationships, family relationships, because they don't spend time. All right. Their own health, they lack self-care, right? And of course, I don't know how much people are look at it. I think it's very important that we look at our spirituality as well. And that doesn't necessarily mean a faith or religion. Yeah. So today, that's what I do. Okay. So day in, night out nearly. Okay. That I actually would be by the side of the person, just like I was a child once upon a time, not child, when I was in school. All right. That I would listen to their issues. Like afterwards, I've got a CEO from a startup. Okay. The startup have been around for like 6 years. And to help him, I help his people. So he will come in, tell me about, I'll say, okay, tell me what's been going on for the last 1 week. So then he would tell me this and that, and I'll listen. Then I would identify the gap. Yeah. And then I would then come up with a strategy. What do we do now with this gap? Yeah. So this is what I do. Big part of my life, nearly my whole life. Yeah.
Excellent. That was such a thoughtful and riveting response. And I really love it's such a nice example of encouraging people to lean into those curiosities, those interests, those things that make you you, because then you're really able to see how you can pursue that and be successful and happy at the same time with that. So thank you for giving us that context to help us understand.
Yeah. What is the point at the end of the day when we do not have joy?
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
I do not even look at the word happy. Not that happy is a negative word; it is positive. But then again, happiness, people tend to look at it with the external connotation. I'll be happy when
Yep.
I've got a bigger house. I'll be happy when I get that promotion. I'll be happy when, which all that are good and well, provided if all this external stuff truly give you internal joy, which is far from this fact that after they reach that goal, and then what's next? Because they don't feel fulfilled. There's a void again. And then what's next? And then what's next? And what's next? So they keep chasing and they keep chasing. At the end of the day, which okay, I'm not okay. I always make this joke, right? Me no spring chicken. I'm 60 years old. Hence I say that, so it's great to be older. When you're older, you get away what you say, right? No, really, I would just go like, spring chicken, I'm 60 years old. And I am proud of the fact that I've got this joy waking up every morning, looking forward to the day. Whereas my friends and people that I hang out with are usually older than me. There's probably, mid-60s, 70s. And then they actually say, I don't even know what I wake up to. Yes, I have this job. I've got this big business. You know what I mean? I've got this big responsibility. And they actually feel drained. They feel like I can't give up because I would actually disappoint a lot of people. All right. Let alone there are some younger ones, or other younger leaders where they still have to fund, the education of the kids and all that. So I think that's sad. Where we wake up and we question ourselves, wake up to what?
Yeah.
Accept the
That is a
obvious,
hard,
Yes.
a hard path.
Yes. And therefore to verify what I say, is this a fact that
Mm-hmm.
people do not wake up to that joy? And then so what if they do not wake up to joy? They become sick.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the simplest way to look at life is this, right? Our brain produces natural chemical.
Mm-hmm.
Feel good, good chemical. Feel bad,
Yep.
bad chemical. We don't need to be a
Mm-hmm.
doctor. We don't need to be a specialist on that to
Yep.
understand, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if they wake up, all right, or throughout the
Mm-hmm.
day, mostly feeling bad, whatever bad means,
Mm-hmm.
stress, burnout, frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
angry, whatever that might be, then the brain produces bad chemical called cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
obviously, either you attack our cells, attack organs, attack someone. So look around the
Mm-hmm.
whole entire world. How many seniors, right, which I'm really considered senior, okay, 60, all right, how
Mm-hmm.
many seniors, all right, eventually were passed on, which we all have to pass on, not sick before they passed on? I'm talking of major
Yes.
sickness. Very
Mm-hmm.
few. It's such a small percentage that they still, sure, we all have expiry date, but the point is that,
Mm-hmm.
they ideally, of course, we go in our sleep or we
Mm-hmm.
are still in fairly good health. Very, very few. And I refused
Mm-hmm.
to be in that statistics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I refuse to be in the statistics. So I do a lot of self
Yes.
care, and I would never allow myself, uh, so called, put myself in a position rather, all right, that my brain
Mm-hmm.
would produce this cortisol as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is the goal. Right?
Yes, that's an important goal.
Yeah. Yes.
Way
Yep.
more important than anything else in our
I
life.
agree. I agree.
But yet
And
people
so
think
that,
that,
yeah,
it someone else. I mean, it's interesting. We see that of other people, but we think it won't happen to us.
that is true. We do underestimate, the capacity of these outside elements that we see them and how they can impact us. And actually, that leads us. So when you're talking about, what you do and the importance, and I was preparing for our talk, I kept thinking, I bet you hear a lot of misconceptions or a lot of myths about this work-life balance. And I'm wondering if you could tell us what some of those myths are, and then how you coach your clients to help overcome them or manage these in a better way, in an effective way.
I think first the person need to understand what is work life balance. So I've got a
Mm.
lot of clients thinking work life balance is almost like equal number of hours. Almost, equal number of hours to work, equal number of hours to
Mm-hmm.
rest or with the family. And then they
Mm-hmm.
get really frustrated, right? Where they have to put more time at work. But let alone, to me, we all have 24 hours. Why is it that some
Mm-hmm.
people can do much more and not stressed out, and some people just have two tasks and then they're like, my God, it's the end of the world,
Yep.
That first thing
Mm-hmm.
called self management.
Mm-hmm.
So before work life balance comes, self management
Mm-hmm.
is big, all right? I mean, it's big. You have to look at your
Yeah.
self management. If you manage yourself well, then your brain will not produce that bad chemical,
Mm-hmm.
right? After all, I said to a lot of all these executives, and when they said, "Oh, it's so stressed out, it's so hard, and especially programming is so hard,"
Mm-hmm.
I said, without offense, what's really hard about our job? The real hard job are those people in the construction site,
Mm-hmm. Yep, that is
blazing
true.
hot sun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, they have to, weather whatever that's out there, especially in Singapore. It's so hot and humid.
Mm-hmm.
That's work. That's
Mm-hmm.
serious hard work because there's a toll on our physical body.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what is hard work for us is here.
Mm-hmm.
What we choose to perceive and think. So,
Yep.
self management first has to come in.
Mm-hmm.
Then, next, right? Instead of I look at it I reframe it instead of work-life
Mm-hmm.
balance. I rather look at
Mm-hmm.
work-life integration.
Mm-hmm.
How do
Yep.
you integrate, right? This every aspects of your life, which is not even just
Mm-hmm.
um, family and let's say, okay, let's use the word personal, not just personal
Mm-hmm.
and professional. One has to dive deeper. What does it mean by personal? What does it mean by professional? So it's
Mm-hmm.
not just family work,
Yep.
right? I
Yep.
exercise 5 times, all
Mm-hmm.
right, a week, every morning.
Mm-hmm.
First thing in the morning, right? Nothing else I want to think
Yep.
about. That's the first thing I want to do, right? 2 days
Mm-hmm.
break, 5 times a week. Because, this is a physical body as like a vehicle. If it breaks down,
Mm-hmm.
forget about doing anything else.
Yep.
So I integrate my exercise with my
Mm-hmm.
schedule. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to
Yep.
be flexible, fluid, to know how
Mm-hmm.
to adjust my timing depending on my schedule. Sometimes I do have somebody comes in at 7:30 a.m., right? They want to do this stuff before
Mm-hmm.
they go to work. Because when
Mm-hmm.
they go to the office, they know, it's that
Yep.
back-to-back meetings. They'll be
Mm-hmm.
distracted. They're not going to come. By the end of the night, forget it, right? They're too like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to do anything
Yep.
else, and they want to go home. And of course, their
Mm-hmm.
commitment with the family and their own social life. So I would just integrate this my timing, my
Mm-hmm.
schedule, all right, with what I want to do, like self-care and even other personal pursuits. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll look at it as the work-life integration than the
Yeah.
work-life balance, because the word balance, then people have the
Mm-hmm.
wrong connotation again, that balance
Mm-hmm.
means everything else um,
Yep.
fairly equal, or
Mm-hmm.
I have this, I don't have that.
Yep.
To have this, I have to give up that, which don't
Yep.
make sense either. So I
Mm-hmm.
have time. Run a very busy practice. I have time for anything and everything, so long these are the things I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I look at it
Yeah,
that way.
so
Yeah.
powerful. And I was even thinking when you were talking about balance, and I thought of the traditional scale imagery, right? And like
Yes.
you said,
Correct.
ooh, if not, it'd be so hard
Yes.
to get it balanced. Even more
Correct.
than when we see when they're out of balance, then that doesn't feel good. But I like that idea of integration because it's realistic. It is achievable with some planning. And I love that idea that you are a professional, successful individual and you saying, I have time for everything so long as I want to do it. And I think
Correct.
that is something we should all take away is that we can do this. It just is figuring out the importance
Yeah.
and how we're going to do it.
Correct. It's the mindset. I have no time.
Yeah.
It's a
Yes,
programming to do it.
exactly.
It's programming, like as if like it is like
Hmm.
a formation they are doing every day. I have no time. I have no time. I have no time.
Yeah.
So of course
Yes.
you have no time. Then you have no time. I said I have time to do
Hmm.
anything and
Hmm.
everything so long I want to. Of course, things I don't
Yes.
want to, things I'm not interested. Then of course I say I have no time.
No time. Yep,
Yes, no time.
exactly. Oh,
Right.
wonderful. And Nancy, this is a perfect segue. So I was wondering about your key practices. So what are these elements or strategies that will help to contribute to this work-life integration?
All right. There are various things that I do. Uh, I do first thing first. All right. I
Hmm.
believed all of us has to know so-called the root of our issue. I
Hmm.
don't do superficial stuff that just go around the obvious, think good, think positive, think good, feel
Hmm.
good. Of course, we don't want to think negative and feel bad. That's so
Yep.
obvious.
Hmm.
But yet, contrary, then why people are not thinking the positive, but slant
Hmm.
into negative. Again,
Hmm.
right? As I said, my age, people around me, after a while, I look at them, I said, why do you talk like that? That means
Hmm.
not as
Yep.
positive, right? Why are you
Yeah.
complaining, right? You
Yep.
can take charge.
Hmm.
So I'm
Hmm.
sure they don't want to.
Yep.
Unconsciously, they did that.
Hmm.
So the first thing, I do a deep dive to get to the root cause. And Whether fortunately or unfortunately,
Mhm.
this root cause often stem from childhood. And it doesn't mean that
Mhm.
we got to come from a violent family,
Mhm.
really bad childhood. But again,
Mhm.
something we perceive as a child, because
Mhm.
when we are really young, we do not have that sense of analysis yet. It's like a sponge. We just take it in,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? And that information, all right, is stored in the subconscious mind. And consciously, when something trigger, we don't even know
Mhm.
that. We just associate with exaggerated 1,000 other events that are similar to this,
Mm.
and therefore I react instead of responding.
Mhm.
So that's the first thing I do to deep dive. Then the second thing, of course, from the deep dive, then we have to recognize what are the changes that's necessary. There's no
Mm.
value to know the problem when we don't know what else or the strategy to go about changing. So
Yeah.
I would have mapped out the strategy, what's needing
Mhm.
to change. In fact, I don't usually use the word change. I rather use the word shift. What needs
Mm.
to shift? Because I mean, the clients that come to me, like, they are not teenagers, they're not young adults.
Mm.
They know so much.
Yep.
Sometimes they don't even know what they know. I'm sure it is
Yep.
with us too,
Yep.
right? So much we don't even know what we
Mhm.
know.
Yep.
We
Mhm.
accumulated so much, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
so we have to look at the strategy to make that shift. And it's interesting. The moment that shift is made, it's permanent.
Mhm.
It's like once you see light, you see light.
Mhm.
But the problem,
Exactly.
many, um, as the higher you go, right, kind of get a bit
Mhm.
low. Who do you talk to?
Yep.
Who do you
Yeah.
reflect this to? And everyone else will look up to you that, hey, come on, you're the leader, you can do
Mhm.
it, and you've done it. But then
Mhm.
deep down, it's like, I
Mhm.
really don't. Right? Okay. So therefore, then we make the shift. That after the shift, self-reflection is key. All right. But self-reflection cannot come first because if I don't even know the root cause, even I
Mhm.
self-reflect, and I go like, I know, but I'm doing the exact opposite.
Yep.
They're doing the exact opposite as they are doing what they don't want, but they keep doing what they don't want.
Mhm.
And they
Mhm.
beat themselves. Yesterday, I just had someone, kind of high flyer. And it was that moment of truth that he actually looked at me and said that, I really hate myself. I said, hang
Aw.
on, why? Because I'm doing the
Mhm.
things I don't want.
Mhm.
Okay? I said, sort of like we can put up the front with people, but we cannot
Mhm.
put up the front with ourselves. When
Yep.
we are by ourselves, absolutely naked. I mean, absolutely naked in our
Mhm.
mind.
Yep.
So then, of course, then I, talked to him and I said, come, let's do some self reflection. All
Mhm.
right. So they go, oh, yeah, that's what we covered the last time about this root cause. I said, exactly. You were
Mhm.
kind of a little bit mindless,
Mhm.
therefore you got yourself, associated with something, XYZ. And therefore
Mhm.
you in doing the exact opposite.
Mhm.
So self-reflection is not just self-reflection, but we have to reflect. Uh, what are we thinking? So the first thing anybody comes to me and say,
Yes.
"Hey, this is this happened, and I don't like it," and I said, "Okay,
Mhm.
let's go back to that moment. What were you thinking?"
Mhm. Yep.
Because that triggers that reflection, right? Not the
Mhm.
event. People spend a lot of time looking at the event, and when we look at the event, we tend to unconsciously go into some kind of blame.
Mm.
Someone
Mhm.
caused someone caused that,
Yep.
right? The
Yep.
staff, the person that's
Yep.
not as effective, and then
Mhm.
they make this mistake, and now I have to answer to it. I mean, it tend to be
Yeah.
right. It's just natural. So
Yes. Yep.
self-reflection also taking what the not just responsibility, the just clear my mind, the not responsibility. The other word was that accountability. That's right. The
Mhm.
accountability first. That
Mhm.
not about that I've done wrong, but it's like what was I thinking?
Mhm.
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
Then again,
Yep.
that creates a deeper understanding. Only with a
Mm-hmm.
deeper understanding, then we know how to correct the changes. It's an auto mechanism we all have. Again, we are not a
Mm-hmm.
child anymore.
Yep.
So this is what I do. It was like, they see light, and that's the results they get often after they leave here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I can't tell them exactly what to do. I'm not in their place.
Yep.
Right. That's why I said I serve as a guide. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Confidant. So they can tell me stuff and I don't judge.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to it with
Yep.
an open mind. I understand. And then
Mm-hmm.
whatever I mentioned early on. And then, of course, I would then ask them to also go back and do the self reflection on the
Mm-hmm.
regular basis. I said, don't catch what you're thinking first.
Okay.
That's interesting because we don't
Mm-hmm.
know because everything happens so fast, right?
Exactly. Yep.
I said, catch your feelings.
Mm.
When you feel, example, frustrated,
Yep.
okay, go back at time. Yeah, you feel frustrated. What were you thinking that make you feel frustrated? Then you get it.
Mm-hmm.
All
Yes.
right.
Yep.
Otherwise, we say, what are you thinking? I don't know. And then again, we just look at that moment, what's in front of us, and we say, again, that person, that situation, that event. No,
Mm-hmm.
the event, the situation is neutral. Is what we are
Yes.
thinking about it that gives it so-called a meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Everything outside is
Yep.
neutral. If you have no thoughts,
Exactly.
there's no
Yep.
feeling. If there's no feelings, there's no action.
Yep.
Simple as that. Yeah. So
Exactly.
this is the kind of
So
work that, yeah.
yeah, when you were talking, I was hearing this idea of the stories we tell ourselves, and that
Yes.
a lot of times we're not even consciously aware of the triggers or the connections that are underlying it. But then through self-reflection and then the shift that you're talking about, like once we make that commitment to being kind of present and neutral and looking at the feeling. So you're saying that then you tend to see people, once they make that commitment, it kind of sticks for them, right? Like they see the light, I think is what you said.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you see, this is, you are right about the stories, right? Yeah. Another word, I call it
Mm-hmm.
your narratives. What is our narrative?
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Is our narrative that we are
Yep.
running at the back, right? That we are
Yeah.
even unconscious.
Yep.
Unconscious meaning we're not unconscious is there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's running, at the
Exactly.
background, right? Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
so the moment we know, all right, so called we understand, then we can change the narratives. If we don't
Yes.
understand, we will keep the same narratives, we'll keep the same
Yeah.
story. Of course, perhaps some people say it in a
Oh,
different way, but the
yeah.
meaning is the
Yep.
same.
Yep. Exactly.
The same,
Yep, and
the
then we
topic.
can see, yeah, how you're waking up without joy then. If you're running that same narrative and feeling like there's no time and you're so tired, we can't expect then to feel refreshed or excited and energized and joyful.
Absolutely. In fact, frustrations, all right,
Mhm.
over times lead to depression.
Mm.
Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Because that, of course, it's not just frustrated one time, two
Mhm.
times, time and
Yep.
again. That's fine. I'm talking,
Mhm.
constant frustration.
Yes.
Constant
Yep.
frustration simply means I've been trying to do this and do that and do this and
Yep.
do that and make changes, but nothing
Mhm.
works. So over a period of
Yep.
time, when nothing seems to work, then it's despair, a feeling of despair.
Yeah. Yep.
And that feeling of despair can lead us into depression.
Yep. Yeah,
And
that is
that,
that's a
yeah,
hard place to be.
correct. So this is stuff that I look out for my client.
Mhm.
All
Mhm.
right, I look out for my clients. I said, hey, your frustration been very intense.
Mhm.
All right, so
Yep.
okay, watch it. Let's
Mhm.
break it. We have to break. We are short circuited, so to speak.
Mhm. Yep.
You cannot afford to, keep it going. You see, the problem with confident people like us,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Guilty.
we
Yeah.
Poverty, right? But the problem with
Mhm.
confident people is that they tend
Mhm.
to be a little bit stubborn.
Mhm. Yeah,
Right?
I might have heard
Been
that
there, done it.
before.
Yeah, been there, done it. So no,
Mhm.
it works.
Mhm.
Used to work. I said, yes, you're right.
Mhm.
It used to work, but
Yep.
it's not working anymore. If it's
Mhm.
not working anymore, something got to change,
Yep.
right? Of course, the flip side
Mhm.
of stubborn is determination. That's why we get to where we are today. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
while it is good, I know there's always flip side to stuff, right? While there's a positive,
Mhm.
the flip side can be negative, right? So we are very
Yep.
determined. We want to achieve and achieve and achieve.
Mhm.
But then suddenly there's a brick wall. You don't keep going against the brick wall. You are hurting
Yep.
yourself. You got to think about
Mhm.
how do I go around it? You know what I mean? Stuff
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
Now, it's easy if it's a real physical brick wall, but
Mhm.
unfortunately, it's an invisible brick wall.
Mhm.
So they can't see better. And that's where I sort of assist them, or
Mhm.
or they can use my lens to see that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. So powerful, Nancy. So powerful. I
Thank
love all of
you.
this. And we've talked a lot about the individual, and now I'm wondering, like, I want to bring in the leaders and managers in
Mhm.
organizations. And I'm wondering, what do you suggest for them? How do they foster this culture of balance and well-being or integration in their team or in their organization?
I've written my first book called Love Reignited. It sounds like for couples relationship, but no,
Mhm.
it applies to all relationship.
Mhm.
It's supposed to be a conflict management uh, sort of handbook. All right,
Mhm.
it's a conflict management handbook. All right, so it's well, we all have conflict, right? I mean, we do,
Yep.
right? We all think
Mhm.
different. And in that book, at least in three places, I mentioned deep understanding.
Okay.
So this I say in the whole world is pretty lacking because we
Mhm.
tend to use our world to impose on someone else's world.
Mhm.
I mean, just a quick one, right? Even parents,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
they do not come to me only about their work, also about their family. And I told them,
Yep.
I said, you cannot expect your, let's say, 12-year-old world to be your world. You cannot see the
Mhm.
world in
Mhm.
that world. So similarly,
Yep.
right? You are the leader, and your
Mhm.
staff, you cannot expect them to see your world first.
Mhm.
They can't. Not that they don't want to. Just like I
Yep.
mentioned about a
Mhm.
12-year-old, right?
Yep.
You first got to
Mhm.
understand again, what are they thinking?
Yep.
If only people spend a bit more time to understand what the other individual is thinking, I think there'll be
Mhm.
very, very, very little problem in the world. We
Mhm.
tend to
I
impose
completely
our
agree
thinking,
with you. Yep.
right?
Yep.
We impose our belief. We
Yep.
impose our values. While values
Mhm.
are important, but we do have different values.
Mhm.
Someone else
Yep.
is A value and someone else is B value. Right?
Mhm.
My value, the first value is truthfulness. But
Mhm.
some people can't. Not that they don't want to. Right? Say the other person's value is harmony,
Mhm. Yep.
and then I want to be truthful. Oh my God, it's already a conflict,
Yeah.
right?
Flip side of the coin.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. But they're both values. They're both values,
Exactly. Yep.
negative.
Mhm.
So I have to
Mhm.
understand the other person's world, all right, about this thing
Mhm.
about harmony. Remember, I said that everything
Yep.
comes from our childhood
Mhm.
first because we were a child once upon
Yep.
a time. So the first
Mhm.
thing, all right, we need to understand, not just to understand people, but understand what they're thinking, their world.
Mhm.
Only when we understand their world, then we can negotiate.
Yep.
I use the word negotiate, then
Yeah.
we can
Mhm.
facilitate, that
Mhm.
what we want as, say, the objective and the goal,
Mhm.
so that the other person can see it in their light.
Mhm.
Because if they cannot
Yep.
see in that perspective, then they think that you just bulldoze what to do. You are the
Mhm.
boss, right? And then resentment
Yep.
will come in, right?
Mhm.
Then the team harmony will not be there. And the person that can be really good, but because the value is harmony, then it says, oh, this is not the place for me because I don't feel that harmony.
Yeah.
I feel that, I'm being, told off, I'm being called up, all that. So I see a lot of this in the corporate world with this misunderstanding. They're all good people. Mind you, they're all good people, but then they're just on a different page, if I may say that. So if you're on a different page, how do you resolve anything? So the understanding, knowing that person's world, as I keep saying, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? I always ask the same question. What are you thinking? So tell me what you're thinking. Right? All right.
Yeah.
Then after that, look at the common goal. Let's call it common goal objective. And ask them how would they want to resolve, or how that means their input.
Yeah.
Then they feel respected. They feel they're being heard, rather than it's just instruction and policy passed down. You like it or not, you just do it, shape up or ship out. You know what I mean? That kind of very authoritative.
Exactly.
That belongs to old school. That works, but not today when people are so educated, right? Right? It just won't work. All right. Even in our government, I can see the shift during Lee Kuan Yew's days and the second minister, and now, a quick one, that during our National Day, those were the days where the party PAP will wear white, everything white. Over the years, now they're colorful.
Okay.
Because now it's the younger generation, people like us, people that are older, we already know them, we respect them, we are going at some point, you know what I mean? The younger ones. So National Day now is colorful. The ministers were dressed up with all the colors and patterns and everything. I think the show will be like more, hype and this and that. Right? Of course, they may not always be right, but because they know that they're being respected and heard. So when you then give your input, they're able to see why you want them to do X, Y, Z way. I think this would be a better, way to cooperate. They would look up to the leader and respect the leader much more than you just, what to do, you just, hand it down to me, I have no other choice, stuff like that. Of course, we do have to set boundaries. That's very important because, again, we all think different. We come from different background and all that. But set boundaries is not just a black and white, but in a very respectful way, all right, to know what is accepted and what's not accepted. Again, back to the common goal, not being personal. One of the biggest problem in the world is being personal. You see that? They get personal. So they get personal, their thinking is WOP as well.
Yeah.
That's how I work with my clients as well.
Excellent. I was taking notes when you were talking, Nancy, because there's so much wisdom here. And I found myself thinking, you're right, just asking, what are you thinking, is a way to develop a partnership so it doesn't feel like a superior and subordinate, and to develop trust. And we have psychological safety then. So all of these ingredients that really help to make a workplace a place I want to be a part of, to share ideas, to own mistakes, to grow together. I mean, it's really a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and that's true sense of communication, isn't it? Not talk down, and that's called communicate. Let's talk. So you're just telling the person, do this, do this, do this. That's not communication.
No,
that's
no,
orders. You're giving orders.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Being talked at isn't a fun place to be.
Yes, absolutely. That's why not so long ago, was it last year? What did they call it? Quiet quitting? It was
exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Because the people are dissatisfied as what we are talking about. So therefore just, okay, I still need the bucks, right? I still have to pay my bills. So I just sit there, do whatever.
Do the bare minimum.
Correct. And that's what quiet quitting comes about, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And so I found myself thinking, when we were just talking about the role of a leader or manager and what they can do, one thing I've been thinking about is how that leader or manager can kind of be vulnerable, how they can share, their struggles with trying to find balance or integration. So, how can they share that in a way that they can maintain authority and feel safe, but also kind of role model that this is hard because it's hard, not because you're doing it wrong, right? So,
A
what would
good
you
question.
suggest there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The word that you said is so key. Role model.
Mhm.
Role model.
Yep.
Right? Again, you can tell by now my hero is our late Mr. Lee Kuan Yew.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
He's indeed a role model. So I said earlier about self-management. If the leader doesn't look like a leader, it just go down the
Yep.
tube. And we are seeing that, I don't want to talk politics here, but we are seeing that in the political world too.
Fully see it.
Yeah. Right. So you got
Yep.
to, again, the self-management,
Mhm.
because people see, are you
Mhm.
talking your talk, walking your walk?
Mhm.
If the leader is not, even you talk about your vulnerability, I have my difficulties too,
Mhm.
people shut up because they can't
Mhm.
see you as someone they want to respect.
Mhm.
So it's very important, first thing first, like as a role leader, you
Mhm.
um influence them by your own action first.
Mhm.
We don't need to be popular because it's hard to be popular. Like
Yep.
everybody
Yep.
likes you. Because some decision is not being liked because people think the way they want to think.
Mhm.
Um, I run this group coaching. So I'm their coach, their mentor, their trainer, all combined. And I
Mhm.
do it with a lot of my heart and soul. And I can be very hard on them at times.
Mhm.
Right? And I said, the only thing I want from each and every one for you, only one thing, to create success for every single person, I leave nobody behind. But in the
Mhm.
same note, right, they look at me, I'm always stepping up, leveling up.
Mhm.
So therefore, when times when I said, hey, you are slacking, you're not doing that. All right, may not be the most pleasant tone, which sometimes is
Mhm.
necessary. You can't be always
Yep.
stroking the person. It's all right. You're feeding their weakness.
Yep.
All right, they do not like that at that moment, but they know it's for their own good.
Yep.
I think it is more important first. As a leader, we show up as a leader. Then,
Mhm.
of course, all right, love. Love is important, not the intimate love, love as that positive energy that
Mhm.
you meant well. As I said earlier on,
Mhm.
right? My love for them is that I just want to create success for each and every one. I'm
Mhm.
not here, that you guys are paying me some bucks and therefore I just, do whatever. I
Yep.
do it with my heart and soul. At the end of the day, right?
Mhm.
That's your results. And so when somebody did well, I will always give them a reward.
Mhm.
Although they are not working for me, but I like to show as a reward. And they're not necessarily expensive stuff. So again, as a leader, your reward, not necessarily material, right? It could be
Mhm.
even in your words, right? Do you reward enough or do you only
Mhm.
point out when a mistake being made?
Mhm. Yep.
There got to be talking of balance, that got to be this balance.
Yes.
Or you need
Yeah.
to be firm, right? Necessary. You can't it's okay,
Mhm.
it's not okay. Some things are just not okay. You got to be firm. Sometimes even you have to make tough decision, but at the same time, you are displaying your love and care for your people.
Yep.
So if a leader can do that, even there are times, sure, we are human, we have our
Mhm.
vulnerability. It will not be looked at a bad light, bad light at
Mhm.
all. And of course, again, right, earlier I said set boundaries. Some things are not
Mhm.
allowed, right? Because there are policies, right? Even the country has got rules.
Yep.
Singapore
Mhm.
got lots of rules, right?
Mhm.
But I like that. Otherwise, people
Mhm.
forget how to behave.
Yep. Yep.
And I call that
Yeah.
cultivation.
Mhm.
In the family, we have rules, right? I mean, when we were teenagers or
Exactly.
whatever, there are rules. And I think rules are
Yep.
good. Otherwise, people just go like whatever, and the whatever is scary. I love rules.
Exactly. I
Coming from a country
same.
of rules, I love rules.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And I really love that you touched on kind of that role of the leader and recognizing that sometimes it is a little lonely. Sometimes you are isolated, but that's part of that responsibility
Right,
that you have signed up for.
right.
Yeah, I think that's really an important reminder.
Yeah, I think I like to add that, that when you said isolation, okay? So again,
Hmm.
even why look at isolation?
Yeah.
Uh, when we are comfortable within our own skin,
Yeah.
we don't feel lonely. We only
Yeah.
feel lonely when we are not comfortable within our own skin.
Hmm.
I dine out a lot alone. I don't
Hmm.
mean I won't
Hmm.
dine out with people, but I
Hmm.
spend a lot of time, my lone time. Okay, I call
Yep.
that my me time.
Yep.
So again, the time management, the energy management is so needed
Hmm.
both as a leader and even
Hmm.
all the other people in the company that I would always sort of suggest this cultivation of time and energy management. Where do
Hmm.
you spend your time? How do you spend your
Yep.
energy? So if the energy is depleted, my goodness, by
Hmm.
the end of the day, of course, you don't want to spend time with your family. Or you are there, but you're
Yeah.
not.
Yep.
And then you have your wife, your husband complaining, and they go, oh, then I have no
Hmm.
balance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's
Gosh.
not because,
Hmm.
the person's not comfortable with their own skin. The
Yep.
time and energy management is, distorted. Then, of course,
Hmm.
everything else is just going to go sideways.
Yes. Yep.
Mm.
And you talked about me time, and I think that's a perfect lead in because I was going to ask you about the role of self care and how you see it playing into someone being able to successfully integrate work and life, and how you help people to kind of prioritize their well being, as they're still on an achievement track. So, what does that look like?
I'm glad you asked that because it's so lopsided about this self care. And for some
Mm-hmm.
people, like self care needs a lot of money, a lot of time. I'd rather use my money and
Mm-hmm.
time for something else, but it is not true.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Of course, self care first is our mental state. As I mentioned earlier on about the good chemical, bad chemical. It's not the appearance
Yeah.
come first. The mental come first
Mm-hmm.
because to look good comes from the inside out, not the
Mm-hmm.
makeup I wear. The makeup
Yeah.
that I wear
Mm-hmm.
enhances my looks, but it would not.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, to cover up if I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling bad because I'll look haggard, I'll look tired, I'll look
Mm-hmm.
drained. So no amount of makeup and everything else is going to help.
Mm-hmm.
So first the mental. So mental means
Yeah.
what? Well, I'm not suggesting that everybody must meditate, but I rather say you need a break. A break is not going for
Mm-hmm.
holidays. A break is
Yep.
just being quiet. So nearly every lunchtime, or rather after lunch, I do my break.
Mm-hmm.
10, 15 minutes. I don't meditate, so I won't call it meditation, but just do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I have
Mm-hmm.
noticed when there are days that I don't do that, my brain is
Mm-hmm.
not as sharp as the days that I do it. I can no tonight I'm not going to be done until 10 p.m. because of my group coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely take a break at about 1 o'clock, 1 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can go on and have the energy to go on. So the self-care
Mm-hmm.
first start with mental and also again the self-reflection. What's working, what's not
Mm-hmm.
working, stop what's not working,
Mm-hmm.
reinforce what's working. As I said, we cannot afford to feel bad because we'll become sick. Right. So that these two are very important mental self-care. Then, of course, our physical, right? We cannot feel good if we don't look good,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you will never
Yep.
see
I
me
completely
not
agree.
not
Yep.
not doll up. I call it doll up, not doll
Mm-hmm.
up, doll up, but the
Yep.
doll up, like
Yep.
the grooming and after right, I
Yep.
was an image consultant, right? So you'll never see
Mm-hmm.
me,
Yep.
like not properly groomed or dressed. Even I go to the
Mm-hmm.
gym, of course, without makeup, but still I make sure my clothing are all coordinated, the color, the
Mm-hmm.
this and that. That's very important. In fact, I call it self respect.
Yeah. Yes. I like
respecting
that.
oneself
Mm-hmm.
to look good,
Mm-hmm.
because we are not really looking at ourselves, it's others looking at us. So it's such an
Mm-hmm.
eyesore if we look bad for others,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm a bit
Yep.
crazy that way, but I
Mm-hmm.
look at it that way, all right? Because
Yep.
then before I
Yeah.
leave the house, I look at myself. A big part of the
Mm-hmm.
day and night, I don't look at myself. Other people looking at me,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if I look awful, then it's like such an eyesore, like a sore thumb,
Mm-hmm.
sticking up.
Yep.
Right? So the appearance, of course, exercise. We
Yep.
need to be fit. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let me reframe. There are four things we need when we grow older in terms
Mm-hmm.
of physical body. We need
Mm-hmm.
stamina, we need flexibility, we need agility, we need strength. Without this four, we just go frilled, really frilled, and
Mm-hmm.
go down the tube fast.
Yep.
Yeah. Then, of course, the self care after that is also, like I said earlier on, the time and energy management.
Mm-hmm.
That's self care too. All right. So self care is
Mm-hmm.
not just about the physical. Then, of course, I mentioned earlier also about, oh, yes, one more thing I nearly overlooked, our emotional regulation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's so overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, I
Mm-hmm.
said that confident people, there's a problem, right? So we
Yes.
feel a
Yeah.
certain way, we insist on feeling a certain way because this is what drives me.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. But if this
Mm-hmm.
becomes overdrive, then we're going to take a toll on us. So the emotional
Mm-hmm.
regulation, right? And then, of course, the spiritual. I'm big about spiritual.
Yes.
And for me, spiritual means energy. I do not mean a
Mm-hmm.
faith, all right? So only when you have
Mm-hmm.
this positive energy, then you are aligned to God, you're aligned
Mm-hmm.
to the higher self, you're aligned
Yep.
to the higher
Mm-hmm.
power, whatever it means for each individual. So to
Mm-hmm.
me, I'm big. Self-care comes first before anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep. I was thinking when you were talking, I'm very visual, and I was picturing everyone having their own jigsaw puzzle of
right.
self-care that they put together and figuring out what that looks like for them and recognizing it might change at times, but it's not just one thing. It
Yes.
doesn't necessarily have to be expensive, and it's not optional, and it's not a luxury, it's a necessity.
Correct. It is. There's no two
Mhm.
ways about it for sure. All right. That's why I said the
Mhm.
first thing is again back to self-management, right?
Mhm.
And then back to
Exactly.
the what we talk about role model, right?
Mhm.
Because people look up
Exactly.
to the
Yeah.
person. It's like, wow, what did you do? I mean, I'm glad to
Mhm.
say that my fan club are people in
Yeah.
their 30s. They often look at
Mm.
me, oh
Yeah.
God, Nancy, when I'm your age, I want to be like you.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I'm in line. Yep.
You know, so that I think that's the most important thing. Like, people look up to you not
Mhm.
because you're flaunting your authority, you're flaunting your power.
Mhm.
Power to me also means, right, how you carry yourself, not
Yes.
the title itself.
Yep.
Although that
Exactly.
helps, but that's not the title itself.
Mhm.
There are people have this big
Yep.
title, but then they are not respected. They are not loved in the sense
Mhm.
that, while they're in that position, other people can't do anything about it. But
Mhm.
condition change, and it can change.
Yes.
And we have
Yep.
seen that. And when the condition change, you see
Yeah.
how things just flip around.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm,
Oh, excellent. And thinking about influence instead of authority, right?
yes, correct. The
Mhm.
influence, just like how, again, how many times did I mention Mr. Lee Kuan Yew in this interview?
Yep. Yep.
Right? See, because it's such an
Mhm.
influence in my life. So although
Yeah.
he's gone, I think 15 years
Mhm.
already, he
Mhm.
still continue to be that role
Yep.
model, that not that I want to imitate, I
Mhm.
can't, but
Yep.
emulate.
Yes.
The good qualities that I
Mhm.
want to emulate.
Yes. Yes. And that leads us, I was thinking about success stories then, and I'm wondering if you have, one that you can share of a client or someone that you've seen that you're really proud of how they've kind of moved from where they were when they first came to you
Right.
to a place where they found some harmony or they found the ability to integrate
Yeah,
much, much better.
absolutely. She's in her 40s. So when she first came to me, I mean, high flyer and everything, it says,
Mhm.
In fact, it was so bad that she says that I can't manage my life anymore. All right. That I only have 24 hours, but I have got a mother that won't spend time. I've got my 2 children. She's a divorcee. All right. But has a partner with her. Okay. And she's not negative or she has any problem with the divorce because she thinks that's really a good decision and she has a good partner. So she have got a big job and everything else. But she says, my time, my God, I'm into pieces, right? Forget about joy. She just don't even know. She wakes up to what purpose. So I ask her about purpose. She says, forget about purpose. I'm waking up to fulfilling all my roles. Okay, as a leader, as a mother, as a partner, as a daughter. I just wake up to just making sure that all these roles are fulfilled. And she's very responsible. And I mean, good and bad, right? When you're so responsible, then she'll beat herself up if something just goes a little bit misaligned. Like, say, example, she has this 2 teenagers. Teenagers being teenagers. She'll blame herself. All right. If only I could be there. I said, even you're there or not, right? That's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Anyway, I don't want to go into details. So she was all over the place and miserable, good looking gal, but she's really looking haggard and all that. So I did what I said early on, right? Deep dive into the root cause, right? Having strategy, making that shift. She see the light. She makes the improvement, a whole self-management thing. Today, she has time. Sarah, she has time to start with. She has time. She has more time, put it this way. She has more time to look after herself, i.e. exercises. She has time to exercise in the morning. She used to tell me, I used to tell her, I said, do you exercise? I used to, this thing, I used to. I said, why not now? I got no time. I said, of course you have time. Sure, I'm not asking you to go to the gym for 2 hours, right? You can even do a 20 minutes, a half an hour, right? I have my own home gym. I don't go to the gym out there anymore. I have my own home gym. So like I said, the integration. So now she's so well integrated. And in fact, just recently promoted to another rank. And it's not just the power that she's been promoted, but she feels good that now she has that so-called authority, not the authority and the power to flaunt or just show off, but really to impact on the organization. Yeah. So this is a beautiful.
Yeah.
This is beautiful. And
that is a really beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Nancy, I have 2 final questions for you, and they go together. And the way I end all of the episodes of The Communicative Leader is to ask for advice or a challenge or a tip. So the first part is for our titled leaders, our managers, directors. And then the second part is advice or a tip or a challenge for employees of all ranks across all industries.
Sure. I kind of mentioned that already for the title to leaders, right? That you do not go about first, in your life, expecting people to live in your world. I think that's the most fundamental. Right? I'm not saying we should live in their world, but to understand their world. So when you're able to understand their world, you're able to communicate effectively. I say this most times. Don't give people what you think they want. All right? Give people what they want. Most leaders with good intention give people what they think they want. It's hard to work that way. But when you understand their world, then you can give them what they want and shape them, all right, to that common, that big, goal, so to speak. So when I do a goal setting thing, I mean, we know about SMART goal, okay? I mean, that's not that's a good one. But the one that I prefer is called PACT, P-A-C-T. PACT comes with purpose. Okay. P stands for purpose. So purpose first. Yeah. Then action. Then commitment. Then time frame. Simpler and more humanizes it. because purpose,
Just making
action,
notes.
what do we do?
Yeah.
What do we do, right?
Yep.
Then we need to commit to it,
Exactly.
right? And then,
Mm-hmm.
like all project management, there's a start date, an end date, right? So-called start date,
Yep.
end date, So I use the pact as well. So with this lady I mentioned, I use this pact for her.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why
Mm-hmm.
she's able to like integrate her whole work life thingy.
Yeah.
So I kind
Yeah.
of mentioned that, and of course for the employees, right?
Yep.
We maybe a little bit firm.
Mm-hmm.
I always often say to them, right, when like the CEO that and in order to assist him, I assist people. So I train his people too. So I always tell them, I said, if you think you are better than your boss, then you be the boss,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? I know it's a bit firm, it's a bit tough, but it's a fact.
Yep.
So I
It's
said,
important
don't
too.
yeah, I mean, be the boss. Go be the boss,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But if you, for whatever reason, and I'm not looking down at them, that
Mm-hmm.
whether
Yep.
not now or you are not in that position,
Mm-hmm.
you're not in that capacity, whatever that means,
Mm-hmm.
be a good follower first.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
Do set boundaries. Do even challenge some things you hear that is not right. So I'm not expecting them to be
Mm-hmm.
a doormat. But of course, when I say
Yep.
challenge, I don't mean that defining, going against and having a conflict, but challenge is like,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I beg to disagree because XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear what they come from because you can have a wrong perception about it.
Mm-hmm.
Stand up for your rights while respecting, um, again, the objective, the goal, and the authority and power of your leader.
Mm-hmm.
They got a reason why they say what they say. They got a reason why they want it this direction and that direction. But like I said, you don't need to be a doormat. Yes, sir. Yes,
Yep.
sir. Yes, sir. I'm not suggesting that.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, but then there's no point to challenge in your own mind the quiet quitting, as I said earlier on. All right,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Exactly.
the person is not effective.
Yep.
So even for the employees, also the self management.
Mm-hmm.
I said that to employees all the time. Nobody is indispensable, but you can make yourself very wanted.
Yes.
Ta-da!
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So when you're very
Exactly.
wanted, means you're so
Mm-hmm.
valued. You have no
Yeah.
issue about this redundancy because they literally back you. Please stay. They give you all
Yes.
the perks.
Exactly.
But
Yep.
people don't look into that. Instead, they want to fight. I said, what you fighting?
Mm-hmm.
What you fighting? You're not
Yeah.
even proving
Yep.
yourself. How do you fight?
Yep.
There's no, there's no, there's
Mm-hmm.
not enough bullets for you to fight because you don't have the
Yeah.
capacity.
Yep.
So how do you negotiate,
Yep.
right? It's part of negotiation, communication. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
And I
that's
love
what I
that
usually.
yeah, it's so helpful in raising up the idea of being a good follower. Because we spend so much time as a society and saying, be a good leader, do this and do that. But we don't talk about that responsibility that followers also have and that they need to be a partner. And you're right, it is definitely not being a doormat, but it's being accountable and coming to the table ready with ideas, not just critiques.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's always good to make your boss look good. Not in the flattery
Exactly.
way, but again, back to
Yes.
the
Yep.
objective and the goal and the achievement.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
That was, yeah.
yeah, so that's
I
important to
was
me.
going to say my first day of my first kind of grown up job, my senior colleague, but he was like, your job is not on this piece of paper. Your job is to make her or make Pam look good. That is your job. And it was really helpful. And it was just so explicit and so clear. And it was, at the perfect time in my career, brand new and thinking about it through that lens.
Mm. Yeah. So when I was much younger, right, I always make the boss look good. And even now, when
Mm-hmm.
work with my clients, like I said, to help them is to help
Yeah.
the people and make them look good.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, 100%. I have
Yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah. So that's important.
Excellent. Well, Nancy, thank you so much. I genuinely enjoyed this conversation. I've learned so much. I have showing her my pages of notes that
Great.
I have taken during our conversation. And I know that this conversation is going to be very, very helpful for so many of our listeners. And again, thank you for sharing your time and expertise.
My pleasure. And of course, I'm always open to conversation. All right. I
Mhm.
love to have conversation with people, and that's not necessarily that they have to be my client, because if
Mhm.
I can't even just, do my little bit, that the
Yes.
shift
Yeah.
that somebody can make, whether they are my client
Mhm.
or they become my client, they are not, that's what I am for, or rather, I serve my
Mhm.
purpose in this lifetime.
Mhm.
Thank you,
Excellent.
Joe.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
All right, my friends, that wraps up our conversation today. Until next time, communicate with intention and lead with purpose. I'm looking forward to chatting with you again soon on The Communicative Leader.